please do.
But otherwise, today we're speaking to Lorraine Edmonston, who is an intuitive and spiritual life coach for women. She's also a good friend of mine, and somebody who I think an awful lot about, and somebody whose wisdom I definitely value. In fact, I like nothing more than going for a walk on the beach and listening to Lorraine talk. I don't feel like I need to contribute. I just listen, and it makes my whole, it just makes me do that. My whole body kind of goes, oh, that was nice. And I come back to life feeling lifted. That's how it feels to be with you. So yeah, it's something very special.
Very much likewise.
Bless you.
But it is, you know, I come away from our walks and I feel, you know, like my soul's being nourished because it's that connection. So, and
that's unbelievable now. Stop it.
Yeah,
brilliant. All right, so we're getting together today to talk about we're just opening up a different discourse, I think, aren't we, around menopause and the potential positives that there are. I think there's a lot of focus on the negatives, and we definitely want to promote the opportunity to think about things slightly differently, perhaps. It's just an opportunity. So I'm not sure where to start. Lorraine, do you want to give us a little bit of background about you and how you've got to where you are? A bit of life story.
Yeah, of course. So, I mean, my background is in nursing. I'm a qualified nurse and qualified health visitor. So I left the NHS about 10 years ago. So my background has been around supporting women. As a nurse, I was a palliative care nurse, so I worked in a hospice for 5 years. So I do feel I am able to hold space for people, for women in periods or transitions in their life. You know, obviously end of life care, becoming a mother. These are huge transitions in people's lives, and I guess I've crafted the art of being able to hold space for people in very uncomfortable or discomfort times of life, perhaps. So yes, so that's my background. I am since then a qualified certified life coach, and through my own need, I guess about 8-9 years ago, I really went down my own spiritual path. It was presented before me, and it was whether I had the courage to start down that, and I needed that for me. But actually what it did was reignite things that very much from my teen years, my early 20s, my passions, then it reignited a lot in that. So I got very much into Reiki. So I am a Reiki Master and teacher. I trained to be a Kundalini yoga teacher, meditation teacher. I am a certified moon mother, so I have worked with Miranda Gray, who does moon mother, which is very much around womb blessings, womb honouring, womb healing, and kind of I've created a business now called Awakened Woman Coaching. And for me, it's really about, and this is, I think unless we've been through that journey ourselves, we can't be authentic to offer in our offerings or our service in this lifetime. So it's pulling on my own personal journey as well as the professional kind of hats that I've worn, but it's bringing that all together, and I've brought that all together under Awakened Woman. And for me, it's about really the woman that comes to that point in her life where she's like, wow, okay, so what's this all about? Who am I? What have I done? Where am I going? What is this all about? And for me, this really ties into what I believe and work with called the autumn of the women's life. So as women, it's about connecting to our feminine, to the divine feminine, which is Mother Earth. As women, we are creators, we are nurturers, we nourish, we are receivers, you know. And when I say create, that doesn't necessarily mean in terms of mothering, as in children. We create, we are creative beings, and our womb for me is like our cauldron. It's where we create that magic, it's where we create, and that is, I work with the chakras in my energy work, and the womb is the sacral chakra, which is our sexuality and also our creativity. So it's very much working with this space. And for me, it's the autumn of, you know, as women, we are cyclical beings. We really are cyclical. Whether, you know, our menstrual cycle is a cycle, whether that's every month, and through our menstruation years are a cycle. And I very much work with the archetypes. So I work with maiden, mother, normally crone, but there is this chasm in between mother and crone, which is the you know, the wise old woman or the hag. And this period, or the autumn, is the enchantress. And as the enchantress, it's this time to make our magic. It really is. And so this time, if you want to do it in kind of chronological, would be a woman, say, in her 40s, or what I guess society would class as perimenopause, although I don't particularly like that term. But it is that time when a woman arrives, and it may be that, you know, family have grown up, I don't know, career changes, there might be life events that have gone, oh, okay. Or it's just this natural transition. This is what's the undercurrent. There's a natural transition. And menopause is a transition. It's a very natural, organic transition that women really, for me, is about connecting women to that. But fundamentally, it's about connecting women to themselves. And in our society, in this patriarch that as women we have grown up in, we have always been programmed to be so disconnected to ourselves and to our body. And for me, this time in a woman's life is the time to really get that connection back. And the more we can connect to ourselves and really come into ourselves and start living in our truth, then for me, that is very much what this transition and this journey through menopause is about, because we come out the other side as this powerful, wise woman in our ready for our crone energy. Yeah, it's like a preparation for crone energy for post menopause, which is a second spring. It really is. So yes, I'm very much, I work with nature, I work with the cycles. I work with moon energy, you know, as women, you know, the moon is in phases, women, we're in our phases. And it's about getting all that connection back and allowing women to understand and find that meaning and purpose within themselves. So that's what I'm about in a nutshell.
Massive nutshell. That's amazing. I just want to pick out of that just because I think some stuff just hits a spot, and it made all the hair stand up on the back of my neck. So I think it bears repeating. But you talked about this again, yeah, perimenopause is a label I'm not particularly keen on, particularly, probably maybe for different reasons. It doesn't sit well with me. But you talked about that being the time of the enchantress. And I suspect unless you move in the similar sort of circles that you do, very few women will have experienced anybody calling them a bloody enchantress at this time of life. That to me is a very strong, it's a strong message, and it brings to mind all sorts in my brain. It gives me wonderful visuals. Like I say, it made all the hair stand up on my neck. Can you expand on it? Can you, can you talk about what that actually means?
Yeah, of course, of course. So it's in our society, like I say, as young girls, as young females, we are taught not to go within self as such. We are programmed to please others, to think of others, it's all the external. And by doing that, that's what gives us reward, validation. As we come into this age, and I don't want to do it chronologically, but it is an energy. It's an energy, and it's around kind of midlife for women. It's like all that we start questioning all this. It's a natural stirring inside. And when we think of it as seasons, then as autumn, it's that time when if we look at autumn, if we look at nature, it's about that letting go. It's about that things coming off. But as we come off, we realize it's not about the external, it's about the coming in. And for women, that may be the first time in their lives that they've been encouraged to go internal, to look within rather than all the external. And for me, this is especially, you know, the dominant narrative around menopause at the moment. For me, I see it as an industry that it's become. You know, mothering has been such a big industry for women, and that, you know, we have to ascribe to, this is the way to be the perfect mother, or this is what we need. And to me, menopause society has industrialized, if that's the word, menopause. It's like, well, we need this, we need that. It's about being active, it's about being young, it's about staying, you know, it's about being productive, because these are all the things that make women valuable, which is load of rubbish, complete rubbish, isn't it? We know that. So to actually then society, you know, to actually then say to a woman, look, we don't need all this. We don't need this noise around menopause. We need to come in. If we look at nature, it's about slowing down. It's about resting. It's about letting go, but it's about coming in. How powerful is that? If women really start to come in and connect. And so when I talk about enchantress, it's about power. But unlike society or the male dominant patriarch of power, it's not power over someone, it's about power within. Women have never been encouraged to go within, to really connect to their internal power. And it's when we connect to that power, that's when the magic comes alive. It really is. And it's this time of our life, as I say, it's very much about the womb. It's about the womb space. So even if we're not having regular cycles anymore, or any menstrual cycle, we still have a cycle. We can still connect. We connect to moon cycle. We are cyclical beings. You know, our energy changes 2.5 days. Every 2.5 days, a woman's energy will change, just like the moon's. It really does. If we can really, but we're never taught to connect to our cycles. We're never taught to really connect to our bodies, our physical body, but all the other energetic bodies within us. And listen to our bodies and listen to us within inside. And when we do, that's where the magic is, because that's when we really become creative beings and really start expressing ourselves. And that's the magic, that's the enchantress. But how frightening is that in a patriarchal world, for women to really be in their power?
I mean, does that, so we come back to, we were talking about rage the other day and suppressing, experiencing rage around this time.
Yeah, which has been seen as a symptom. It's like, oh, we you know, oh, we need to calm that down. Well, that just goes back to the old dominant narrative of like, women need to be quiet, we need to be meek, we need to fit in small spaces, we need to become invisible. It's like, no, you know, that rage isn't, well, I'm sure there'll be some scientific evidence to say that's hormonal, but actually for me, on an energetic level, it's really about women coming to this place in their life going, you know, shit. I'd like to say something stronger, but I don't know who's
You can. I have been doing.
Fuck. It's like, how have I been lied to? What, you know, what have I been told? What have I taken in? And what have I been ascribed to? And it's like, yeah, there should be rage. And that rage is real. And that rage is absolutely justified. But no, let's you know, keep a lid on that, and let's keep it down, you know. And it's like, no, we really need to let that rage out, and we are justifiably, as women, in our right to be raged. But it's at this time, it's this stirring, it's this, it really is when women, you know, we start going, we don't need all this external noise. Everything we need is within. But we have never been encouraged to connect to ourselves and hear, listen to ourselves, listen to that internal voice, listen to our intuition, all the feminine attributes, our divine feminine, because we're living in a very, very masculine world. And for me, this is where the menopause journey for women is being played out in society, is a very medical, pathologized. It's something that we suffer from. It's something that we need to cope with. It's something that we need to fear. It's something that we should be ashamed of, which, you know, all ties in with how women are taught to see our bodies. It's you know, and yeah. See, the rage is already building with you.
It reminds me, when you're saying that, I'm reminded of quite a few people actually who have said to me about how they don't like this feeling in themselves of lowered tolerance, just linking that with some of that rage and that discomfort and unease within themselves, and the lowered tolerance being, it could be about something to do with family, it could be work, personal life, things that are going on, and just being really aware that, yeah, that's something that's changing. And I'm of the view that actually that can be that can be a good thing and a bad thing.
Yeah.
It can be irritating, yeah, that you're not able to put up with things like you used to do, and in a way that will also point you towards some agency and some control. And control's a funny word, but yeah, I don't always see.
It's like an authority, isn't it, on your own?
Yeah, tolerance is not always. Lowered tolerance can be, I frame it as a gift.
Yeah, absolutely.
Although they're surprised to hear that sometimes, and sometimes they're relieved to have that permission.
Yes,
Maybe.
absolutely. And that's it, isn't it? That's a huge one, the concept of permission. And that's, I think, what I'm kind of saying about giving women permission to go into themselves, to really connect, to not, and it's like a, you know, I talk about our highest good, but it's like there's something bigger than ourselves knows that we don't need to tolerate certain things in our life that we've been led to believe, or perhaps have done us service up until a certain point, but perhaps no longer is needed now. Again, it's you know, it's that letting go, and not always letting go of big things. You know, it doesn't have to be relationships or jobs, but it might be letting go of how you've been in that relationship, the role you've played in that. It doesn't necessarily mean letting go of something huge, but letting go of how you've played that out, or been in that, and doing it differently. So again, this, going back to creativity, is how can we do it differently? How does it feel right for me, not what I've been told is. Yeah. So you know, creativity comes in very different ways.
Yeah.
I mean, sorry.
I just wanted to, I'm thinking of, because I agree with so much of what you're saying, and I have to also put it on the flip side and think of how other women might see this. And I can think of many women that I've helped. I'm a menopause coach. I hate the word disease and linking that with menopause, and so I'm well on your page. But there's a lot of people who will hear this and say to themselves, or the screen or whatever right now, that, you know, connection to self, that's all well and good. I've got a lot of connection to myself, they might say, because I'm well aware of the struggles I'm in, the pain that I feel in my bones in the morning, the brain fog, the fear of getting dementia and not knowing where I'm at with things and forgetting stuff. I've got a lot of connection to self because I'm well aware of that. And if I go inwards, I'm going to be even more connected to that pain and that struggle. So how is that going to be powerful for me? Is what they might be thinking. How do you approach that they're thinking connection to self is connecting to the struggle? How do you turn that around so that it's something that helps them?
Yeah, of course. So yeah, and I am not for 1 minute kind of, how can I say, I'm not for 1 minute saying that these struggles aren't real for women, and for my, you know, I'm 51 now myself, so I am going through menopause, and I know them physical struggles are real, very real. I would argue, and there has been stuff written about it, that there is the Red School, which is Alexandra Pope. So she does menstruality, so it's the whole. And you know, she provides evidence to say that actually how we are in our emotional, spiritual well-being will play out in the physical. So by going in and working on our energy, working with that connection to self, I would argue can really help ease some of the symptoms.
Okay.
Because some of the symptoms, say things like anxiety, overwhelm, brain fog, is that as we're in this energetic shift and transition where we're needing to slow down, you know, menopause, it's that pause, it's, you know, but we're in a society that is still very capitalist, it's very still about production, it's still about showing up in the way we have always shown up. And some of the symptoms are from the external that is coming in onto the woman. So the overwhelm, the, like I say, the brain fog, that kind of anxiety, that kind of, especially the low level anxiety, you know, it's like actually it's the busyness and the way we're still needing to show up in the way we've always shown, because society isn't supporting us to slow down. Yeah. So with some of the women I have worked with during this period is about, actually, you go back to the word permission, but giving the woman permission to slow down, which may sound quite crazy if life is still really kind of frantic with work, family, whatever. But it's actually giving permission to say, you know, carving that time out in a day, in a woman's day, where she can rest, be, reflect. It's actually more of being the human being rather than the human doing, which is, you know, especially women of our age, we can be juggling so many plates in all different ways. But it's about kind of slowing down. It's that pause. But whilst in that pause, kind of coming into self and listening to our own guidance. Yeah, right. Listening to what our inner voice is saying, but also listening to our body, our physical body, being with it, being present with it, rather than seeing ourselves as a list of symptoms.
Yeah, can you expand on that? Because I've got my ways of doing it, but I want to hear other people's ideas of listening to your body. What is that? How do you do it?
Okay.
How do you build that in yourself?
Right. For me, listening and the practices that I use and I advocate in the coaching is very much, you know, especially around menopause, it is that pause, it is that stillness. So as I say, it's having time to self in stillness. Now, how a woman feels about that, and this is it. It's like it's creating. When I say about being magical and creative, but it's creating what works for you, what resonates for you. And actually, some women don't know because we're so busy kind of looking after everyone else. It's like, well, I don't actually know what works for me. You know, I've had women that come and go, but I don't know. And it's kind of offering kind of I won't say a platter, but kind of different modalities or different ways of being for that stillness and seeing what works for each individual woman. So whether that's meditation, whether that's being out in nature, kind of connecting to nature, connecting to self, whether that's journaling, do you know, whether that's having a bath and actually immersing yourself in water and being held, you know, by water and an element, it can be a number of things, but it's that stillness to actually quieten the mind. I mean, I'm a big advocate for meditation because I do that within my practice, within my yoga, but meditation doesn't have to be a huge thing, you know, it's literally sitting. It doesn't even have to be on a mat. It can be just sat still, connecting to breath, connecting to the inhale, to the exhale, and just quietening the mind down. And once that mind, so we're coming out of the mind, but coming more into the heart space or into the soul or the spirit, then we hear, we listen, and things come up, things come to us. Our inner voice starts talking because it's been given space to listen.
I think what I'm hearing there, because I'm quite I suppose I'd describe myself as a doer, and very practical, quite black and white, really. So it doesn't get any harder for me to connect to the sort of spiritual side of things. Also, I thought, and I think it's changing how you view it. So, and perhaps your language around it a little bit as well. I'm talking about myself specifically, but what I'm hearing there is really you could be in any situation, and I mean be as in be. You are, to be in it. That permission to just be and to stop could be as simple as, the practicals for me would be learning how to say no to certain things that don't serve you. That seems to me to be a big one in my life at the moment. No, I'm not doing that. I haven't got time for that. No, I don't want to spend time with you because you don't serve me. And I don't say it like that, but that particularly is what I'm thinking. I've got limited time, and it all comes back to time, and I find time to be a little bit of an excuse because you could carve time out for anything that matters to you. But I appreciate things do take up time, work, family, etc. So carving time out is difficult. But if you change your thought process, so it doesn't have to be anything, like journaling, fine. Some people don't want to journal, right? Well, what about speaking into a dictaphone? Go for a walk and chat to yourself in a dictaphone. It's just finding ways, like you say, that work for people, that are practical, that give them that sense. But what I'm hearing is really the main thrust of this is you've got to be present in it. That's it, really. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be work. It could be dealing with your parents. You've got to be present in it. Because otherwise, if you're not, that's you disconnected from yourself again. So whatever it is, you've got to be in it. And that, I think, is probably one of the most difficult things, not just for women, but, probably more so for women, like you say, that have grown up in that system or that culture of being told that everything outside of you is way more important than anything that's coming out of you, that's inside. And in fact, what's coming out of you is in some way deficient, not enough, frightening, doesn't fit with what we expect. And I know you've said, I'm repeating what you've said, but I think it does bear repeating about. And you can see, can you feel the anger building? I'm getting wound up, and I can feel it lifting.
Brilliant, good.
Exactly. And when I speak about it, and I go, know what? This is the truth. This is where it's at. This is where it's at, and it winds me off the top. We talked about this the other day when somebody says to me, I won't name names, but I'm sure you can guess who it is. When I say I get wound up, and somebody says to me, "Bit PMS, just about to come on." Catch me a big
my connection.
You didn't miss much, Lorraine. Sorry. Losing the plot.
Okay. But what I did get was it's rising in you, and this is it. Is that connection, and also like that connection to the anger or the rage, and it's like, but by allowing it to rise, we're moving our energy. We're moving. So things that have been really stagnant that we've been holding on to, even old energy, old stagnant energy like rage and anger, get that moving, get that out, and that in itself, if we move our physical energy. I'm a Kundalini yoga teacher, so I talk about Kundalini energy, but we rise, that rises up through the spine. That in itself will have a physical effect. Yeah. So we're working, if we want to go into the physical side of menopause, because I know I've spoken about the spiritual side, but it is as kind of a biological, emotional, spiritual transition. But by doing stuff, I mean, the other thing is like, I talk about being creative and, carving out time. The other thing I do with working with women is really going back to their light within inside. We are all born with our inner light, and it gets dimmed as we, everything that gets thrown. And for me, it's really connecting women to that inner light, the thing that really lights them up. So, some of the work I do is bringing them back to like their teenage years or their younger self. And what really lit you up? For a lot of women, that is dancing, that is music. I mean, I am one of them. And for me, just dancing around shifts that energy. So it doesn't necessarily have to be sitting still, meditating. It could be having a dance for half an hour. And again, physically, we're moving that energy. So it's finding things that really work for you as a woman, and that, you know, there's a whole plethora of different, I won't say activities, but ways that we can connect with self.
Yeah, it is connection, isn't it? It is connection.
Yeah.
And something, sorry to interrupt, but something comes into mind thinking of clients again that I've worked with, and common experiences between them of connecting into themselves, and then hearing that internal chatter and that internal voice. And so much of that connection with themselves is then about criticizing themselves, and that inner chatter becomes something that is not so helpful. It can be that they're hearing things within themselves, and they're tuning into that, perhaps not for the first time in their lives, but they're more aware of that's an internal thing. So what's the question here? I'm thinking, how I know how I work with my ladies with that, but how do you help them to see that there's more than one voice in there, and connection doesn't always equal criticism, self-criticism?
Yeah, absolutely. And the way I work with women is by helping them come out of their head space, coming out of the mind or the ego, and coming more into a heart space or spirit space. So that it's not about saying, you know, we need to get rid of that critical voice. That critical voice will always be there. For me, it's about befriending her. And it's kind of so the woman knows when that chatter is on, it's like, oh, that's Margaret, or whatever you want to call her. You know, we even, you know, I get women to give her a name, because befriend her. She's part of her. She's our ego. She is that critical voice. But to be aware that that is our thought, and we are not our thoughts. We are much bigger than our thoughts. So that is just a thought, and that's you know, programming, conditioning. It's that, oh God, I can't do that. What will people think of me? So we're aware. It's that awareness. It's raising that awareness in women, their own awareness that is the critical voice, but that the inner voice, their guidance, their intuition, comes much deeper than that. That's just that's like the noisy chat, you know, that's like the external, really. That, so we're coming in deeper to what's that, you know, that intuition, where it's that inner voice where,
oh, have we lost her? I think we have. Lorraine.
And working on trust, that they trust. Sorry, my
we lost you.
Connection is really unstable.
If we need to, we'll switch the video because that'll help. But yeah, coming into trust, I think you were just about to be frozen again.
Yeah, so for me, a lot. Am I back in the room?
You are.
A lot of it is about helping women learn to trust themselves, and trust the voice that about having proof, having science, having,
Lorraine, I'm thinking
rather
about,
than that.
Sorry, Lorraine, you're dropping out. I'm just wondering, just try switch off your camera for a couple of seconds, because sometimes that's enough just to let people catch up. And then while you're doing that, I'm just going to open the front door.
Okay.
Because I don't want to miss what you're saying. I think this needs to be heard. People need to hear this.
Yeah, that was exactly my thought as well. I was like, right, we're just gonna
This
need this. It's really important. It is. I find
this is, I don't know what's going on.
Well, most people, you know, it's not necessary that they see us, it's just three faces that are floating about. So if we need to keep the video off, we can do. It doesn't really matter. We could all switch videos off and it could be just our voices. So yeah, trusting yourself. I think that's another one that it's like, it sounds good, doesn't it? And I appreciate fully where you're coming from. But I think it's a tricky one to get to again, because we're not allowed to for the most of our lives, almost. You
We're
know,
almost filtering it through. In my experience, in client experience, we're filtering our own trust through other people's needs.
Yes.
Oh, I like that. That's
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, and not our own needs. Yeah.
Definitely. But I think that's also, you know, by meeting other people's needs, this is what we're programmed, conditioned, is that's what gives us our worth and our validation, rather than trusting that we are enough in ourselves, that all we have, you know, I'm very much, you know, in Kundalini yoga we have a tagline as such that it says, you know, if you don't go within, you go without. And it's for me, that's my premise of how I really try to live life now, because I've realized that it isn't the external, it is everything I need is within me. It's about knowing how to access that. And I think that's it with the menopause, especially, is trust. So as a transition, kind of going back to menopause, because I'm aware that's what we're, but it's a transition in our lives that we're actually taught not to trust, that it's something to be feared of, that it's something, you know, that is again detached from us. It's something that we will go through rather than we are being it. You know, the menopause is ours to own, to honor, and to really kind of own it. Is, you know, it's about our authority, it's about our belonging in our own transition. But it's trusting that, and it's trusting. So for me, a big part of my work is working with women to trust. The other thing that did come to mind in some of the conversations we've just had about carving out time, when we go back to that, so the practicalities again, is a woman I've recently worked with, you know, who's in her mid-40s. She has got a young child, she's got older children as well, and she was like, but she's very much into meditation. She was open to having a meditation, so she, you know, as part of the work, she does meditation, and she's like, I just can't fit it in my day. And I'm like, okay, this is 10 minutes. It's a 10-minute meditation that she wanted to do. We have 24 hours in the day. And actually, that's the message as women. We're like, I can't even find 10 minutes for myself. If it was for somebody else, we would make that as a priority. And I think that's part of it, is turning the whole shift of how we make ourselves as women a priority in our own lives, which externally you'll hear noise of, oh my God, that's so selfish. That's really selfish to do that. But it again,
it's
changing how we've been programmed. And for me, menopause actually you know, really, for me, for women, it's about, menopause is that time where we make ourselves a priority in our own care needs.
So I think that comes back to permission again, doesn't it? It's hard.
It's being bigger than the physical body.
We've definitely got a disconnect, haven't we?
Excuse me. Sorry. Yeah.
Ironic when we're talking about connection.
I think it's my end as well, isn't it?
What's the message here that we're getting?
Is it leaving and trying?
But I would test my video